Recording is starting.
Nick, do I need to mute this or does she need to have a mic?
You need, she
Use-
use this
I need a
microphone here.
mic.
Let's get a quick audio check with somebody.
Is it working? Is the mic working?
Hold it to your, you can flip it on your collar if you like. There you go.
Is that your cell phone in the back?
The blue goes up and the glass outside. And bang the blue at your chin. There we go.
All right.
You want to do it, Mr. Well, can you do an audio check? Are we all good?
We're good.
We're all good.
Okay.
Okay. So, thank you all for coming to the Tampa Audubon General Membership Meeting for April. And those of you who are on Zoom, we're glad to have you there as well. So it's not moving ahead. Oh, well, would you move it to the next slide, please? Okay, we're trying to do the dual presentation where we present here, but also let people participate by Zoom. And the technical difficulties of that are a little bit much for us, but we're getting better. So I do always like to bring up the same thing. And those of you who come to our meetings regularly know that I always talk about our relationship with the National Audubon Society and Audubon, Florida. We are affiliated chapter, but we are in charge of the larger Tampa Bay area. We are not in charge of South Hillsborough County, but the kind of all the way, the big swath all the way from Odessa to Plant City is our area, including Tampa and so forth. And again, our mission is to work to conserve and restore our ecosystems, focusing on birds, wildlife, and their habitats, using education, advocacy, and community involvement. And I think you'll see when we talk about what we do, and when you read our newsletter, that is really what we do. We really are very focused on those activities. Next slide. Can you advance it? So every spring we have elections at the May meeting, which is our annual meeting. It's the essentially the last meeting of the year. And so the June meeting would be our first meeting of the next year. So we do have a slate of officers, and Jim is here he's chairman of the nominating committee. The nominating committee consists of me, Sherry Keller, and Jim. So Jim, I'll let you talk.
Thank you.
Just hold that up in your face.
I just hold this up. That's going to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, we're going to have elections next month. Last year's elections, we had officers. All the officers were elected to 2-year terms. So they're, with one exception, they're not up for re-election. The exception being that Tammy Lyons unfortunately decided she's stepping down. We're going to miss her. She was the is the vice president. And so there's 1 year remaining on Tammy's 2-year term. And to replace that, Jessica Parrish of our board has agreed to step up and run for vice president. And then half the board was elected to 2-year terms. We decided to, we amended the bylaws last year, and they decided it would be a good idea to have staggered terms. So not all the board was being elected at one time. So half of us ran for 1-year terms last year and are up for re-election now. That would be Doug Deneve, Mick McCarty, and myself. And then we had 2 vacancies, one by Jessica stepping up from the board to run for vice president, And then the other, Megan Campbell decided she no longer is able to serve. So there's 1 year left on that term. And see, Jonathan Hoyles has agreed to run for one of those board positions. We're still working to identify another board member. It's not necessary that we fill that last spot. We have the minimum number, but we'd like to have one more. So we'll have, I guess, look for the newsletter. We'll have more information in the newsletter. So thank you. Come out to vote. And I think, will we be able to vote by in person or by Zoom? I think we can figure out how to do that, right?
I think we can.
Okay,
I think we can. And so the next meeting, the May meeting will be our election.
right.
The May meeting.
So show up in person or on Zoom prepared to vote and look at the newsletter for the full list of candidates.
Thank you.
Maybe that mic doesn't project very well.
This is actually for the Zoom, so we'll try to talk louder. I'm sorry. Okay, next slide, Mick. Okay, Jessica Parrish is going to be at the EcoFest. So if you want to see our exhibit at the EcoFest, go along there. It's going to be at Mosey on Earth Day. Yay! And so great celebration for that. Okay, next slide. So we have a number of field trips coming up. This Saturday, Mary Keith is going to be leading the beginning bird walk. The field trip to Cedar Key is full, but Mick is starting a waiting list. So if you really want to go on that, sign up and maybe somebody will drop off and you'll be able to go. Lily Saul is going to lead a really great trip to Lake Rogers. And at the end of the month, Mary is going to be leading a trip to Fort DeSoto. And that will be the height of the nesting season. I mean, migration. And there's always great birds at Levis Lake. Okay, next slide. And we are planning to have a really exciting cruise in January going to the Eastern Caribbean. So this is a fun way to travel. You get on the boat, you unpack once and you relax, and everywhere you go, you get to see different birds on the different islands. So this is going to be a great trip. And if you look at our website, you'll see all the details. Next. It's almost full. So you better hurry and sign up. Okay, next. So Mick is developing the committee to work on where do we go with our field trips. So if you have a place you really want Tampa Audubon to go to, let us know. If you want to help lead field trips, we're looking for other field trip leaders. And all of these things, we could really use your ideas and we want to make you happy. So sign up and tell us where you want to go and help us lead the field trips. Okay, next. Unwanted bird or nature items. We are selling those at our various booths where we have tabling events, and those raise money for Tampa Audubon. So as you declutter your house, and everybody says this brings joy, you can give those items to Tampa Audubon, and we'll give somebody else joy as they buy them. And our treasurer will be very happy as well. So please think about that. Okay, next. We do volunteer regularly to do bird surveys at Schultz Nature Park, the Piney Point Restoration Project, and the Frog Creek Restoration Project. So Mary and also Doug and Mick McCarty are leading those. And these are in collaboration with the Southwest Florida Water Management District, Hillsborough County Parks Department, the Conservation Environmental Lands Program, and the Florida State Park. So we're helping them know what occurs on their property, and that way they can better manage those properties. Next. Oh.
Keep saying we're doing Piney Point Restoration. This has nothing whatsoever to do with the big Piney Point disaster. We have nothing to do with Piney Point. So we go into the rock pile, we go to it.
Like, the only connection there is Honey Point Creek flows through there into the bay, but.
So-
we are as helping us grow the creek, all those disasters.
Yeah, so I'll start to call it Rock Ponds Restoration. Okay, sorry, my fault. Okay, next. We do want to give a big thank you to Terry Simons. She has been the volunteer coordinator for the Joel Jackson Nature Center at Lettuce Lake Park for the last year. And she has on increasing responsibilities with elderly parents and grandchildren. As we all know, this happens to people. So she's having to step back from that role, but she's been wonderful. The things she's done out there. If you've been into the visitor center recently, you'll notice that the exhibits are kind of spiffed up and they look really nice. And so she's done a lot of really great work, and we just have to say thank you to Terry. And that leads us to the next slide. So we've got some volunteer work that we really need out at the nature center there. So it went too far. So we need a volunteer coordinator for the center. So if somebody wants to do that, it's coordinating, having docents be there on weekends and holidays, working with the county on improving the facility there, and just working in a general way to make Lettuce Lake Nature Park really be the greatest experience, wildlife experience for the public that we can make it. If you want to be a docent at the Nature Center, it's really fun. Afternoons, weekends, and holidays, and sit and talk to visit with the people as they come through the park. And it's just a real fun thing to do, and a way to connect to the public and help provide that kind of personal contact that's so important. And then the Suncoast Native Plant Society works to maintain the garden, the native plant garden, and Tina Patterson is in charge of that. So, okay, next one. Tammy Lyons is here. She's sitting in the back, but she's coordinating Project Colony Watch for us. And this is a way to adopt a colony in your area. Keep an eye on it. Count the birds if you can. What's nesting there, how many of each pair, but mostly just keep your eye on it. And did this colony produce young? That's what we want to know. And if there's an issue, we want to know that, because we'll contact the Audubon Florida and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission if needed, and make sure these colonies continue to produce the young that they can. And then, of course, our Bluebird Trail, which we heard about earlier with one of our talks with Tampa Audubon. So exciting, and another way to volunteer. You can also put bluebird boxes in your yard if your yard is suitable habitat for them, something to consider. Next slide. And I always want to talk about our Hooked Birds project. This is ongoing, but you can learn how to safely to yourself and without causing the bird more injury, how to release them by watching we have 3 videos on our website that we produced. And these are important things for us to know. All of us who are out in nature will one day encounter a bird that's hooked with fishing line. And this is also a good way for if your kids or spouse or nephew or cousin or neighbor is a fisherman, if you can get them to watch this, then they can learn how to avoid catching birds, and that interferes with their fishing day. So it's a big deal. We lose a lot of pelicans and other birds in our area that die from getting entangled. So next slide. And our Young Birders Club continues to meet. They have the monthly J-Chat programs, which are done by Zoom, but also field trips to great birding sites. There's an Orlando chapter and a St. Augustine chapter. So this is starting to spread across our state, and we're excited to be part of it here with St. Pete Audubon and Clearwater Audubon to support our Florida Young Birders Club. So next. And again, I want to talk about avian flu in the area. Apparently it's 100% fatal for chickens and really dangerous for the other birds. So if you have chickens, you want to stop feeding the wild birds and inviting the wild birds to your area where your chickens are trying to live. And you may want to keep your chickens confined and not roaming around the neighborhood. Don't touch or sick or dead birds, but you know, if they're dead, put them in plastic and put them in the garbage. So, and report any sick or dead birds to FWC. Apparently, one of the things that avian flu does is it affects the brain. So the birds will do things like walk in circles or stagger and so forth. And it's clear that they're actually very sick. Okay, next. And of course, the Trailblazer helps us to support our county's environmental lands program, which is 65,000 acres in this county. And it's a very big deal. We have one of the most effective and largest county land conservation land acquisition programs in the United States. Next slide. If you haven't had a chance to go to the Tampa Bay History Center, John Costin has an exhibit there, and it talks about the history of bird art and also exhibits some of his art. And so I think you'd really enjoy that. We are talking with John to have a field trip probably on June 3rd, but we're still working out the details to go to the History Center as a Tampa Audubon field trip in the summer in the air conditioning, and we're going to be looking at birds. So, okay, be fun. Okay, next slide. And this is the May meeting is going to be by Joni Hartzler talking about why it's so important to keep cats indoors to protect not just the birds, not just the cats, but the people too. So we really encourage you to come to that meeting. It's going to be at the Tampa Garden Club down on Bayshore, in person and by Zoom. So we have one more special thing to work on, Tammy. So I think one of the things that we don't do as well in Tampa Audubon as we might is to thank the people who have given so much to Tampa Audubon over the years. And I know that we went out of our way to let our past president, Mary Keith, know how much we appreciated her when she stepped back. But we just felt as though some of us on the board just felt as though it wasn't enough. So Mary, if you would come up, please. So
No, she didn't.
this is a surprise for Mary. And this reads, the Tampa Audubon Society presents this award for lifetime achievement to Dr. Mary Keith in recognition of her leadership, dedication, advocacy, and commitment to bird conservation and environmental education. April 6, 2023. Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you.
She's gonna keep on doing things because she's a member of the Florida Audubon Board now. Thank you.
So we have one other recognition award, and Tammy is going to present this one. Hold it up, Mary.
Hello, I am Tammy Lyons. As most of you know, I'm the outgoing vice president. And it's my pleasure tonight to honor someone that has been involved in just about every aspect, I think, of Tampa Audubon. She is constantly recruiting new members, wanting everyone to convert to birding. And she started kind of with our covered dish supper, and I think she was the one that started that. But mainly, I think we're honoring her tonight because she's taken on some very large conservation projects. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but she started the Bluebird trails and the monitoring of them out at Flatwoods. And best of all, she recruited Mary Miller. So, but we've heard about the great Bluebird trails we have. But that wasn't enough. She took on a huge project with the Hooked Bird initiative. And at the beginning, no one would even admit that was a problem except for Ann. The state parks wouldn't admit it, Pier wouldn't admit it, but Sandy persevered, and she and Ann worked very hard to get this going, and they've really made some good progress. And of course, her most recent project is the Project Burrow, where we're trying to reestablish burrowing owls in Hillsborough County. She's also got signs posted at MacDill Air Force Base. She's been a trip leader out there. So of course, everyone knows who it is. It's Sandy Reed. So we want her to make her way up here for a presentation. So Sandy, this says the Tampa Audubon Society presents the Special Conservation Award to Sandy Reed in recognition of her dedication, advocacy, and protection of birds, April 6, 2023. So thank you, Sandy, for all you do. Let's get away from this.
Everything I do has been aided and abetted by all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank everybody who brought food for the covered dish. Thank you. Really enjoyed it myself. And I also wanted to ask, is there anybody here who has never been to a Tampa Audubon meeting before? Is there anybody here? So not tonight. Okay, so anyway,